So, welcome to the channel, Simon. I've been watching you a lot for the last 3 or 4 years, and I started off in 2020. So, I did a British History Month, and somebody told me to come over to your channel to see what you do, and you was giving me great insight. Can you just give a brief introduction to yourself?
Yeah, sure. I write books on on history, non-fiction books, and a lot of westerns as well. And I run a YouTube channel called History Debunked.
So, what drove you to start History Debunk channel? Was there like a revelation or something that made you understand that the importance of challenging the mainstream narratives?
No, so in some of my books, I'd said things that people didn't like. I wrote a book about the suffragettes, explaining that they were really terrorists, and that was quite controversial. And then I thought that rather than keep writing books, at the same time, I could just give my views directly to people on YouTube, which would give me access to more people.
What was it like at the beginning? Was it automatically a hit, or did it take a while for you to build it up?
No, it did took a year or so to get more viewers. I mean, in the first year, I think I got 40 or 50,000 subscribers, and it built up fairly slowly. But yeah, after that, it's taken off quite a bit.
So you've made your name now challenging mainstream historical narratives. But what do you see as the most dangerous historical myth that people believe in today?
That's a really good question. I think it's a general thing that there's a false history being built up, and it's if people don't understand what really happened in the past, they're not going to be able to have a good perspective on the present. Not if they're being deceived. So I think it's a question of looking at a lot of things that people think are so and asking them why they think it. But here's the problem: asking people why they think something or why they say it tends to make them angry. And there's a lot of angry people on my channel because a lot of the time I'll suggest something and I'll say, well, and people will complain and I'll say, well, why do you think so? Why do you say that? And that's when people get annoyed with me. So asking questions like that can have the effect of irritating people.
Every bite that I do, even people try to challenge me, but they give their opinion and that's it. They don't want to hear anything else. Or if you ask them, well, what's this about? Why are you so angry about what I said? They can't do it, and I do believe it's because they're using a lot of political figures and a lot of mainstream figures, and there's a lot of historians as well. People who claiming they're historians, like Hindi Andrews, who they use their platforms for activism. Do you think that the people who do history can use their platform and use that history for activism as well?
Yeah, I think it's possible to do that. And you do see it a lot because there's no such thing really as neutral history. Whatever you do, you're going to be picking out bits and leaving out other bits. People sometimes call that cherry picking. But if I were going to be writing, say, I don't know, suppose I was writing about the year of the Windrush, say the late 40s, I couldn't say every single thing that had happened in Britain and Jamaica during those years. It wouldn't be possible. I'd have to select some things and leave some things out. So automatically, by telling a story in history, you're going to be editing it, and your own opinion must come in. What I would include in the late 1940s about the history of Britain and Jamaica might be different from what you would include. It would be different from what some other people would include. So telling history automatically means that you're going to be selecting, and your own prejudices will come out.
Yeah. Do you think that makes it difficult for people to understand history, especially like Windrush? There's a lot of misinterpretations and there's a lot of omissions, from people who are doing it maliciously. But do you think that would contribute to the modern racism that we see?
No, because it happens on both sides, because white people do that as well. White people, when they look at the Windrush, they're busy leaving out bits that don't suit them. Just the same as some black guy looking at it, he's going to leave out the bits that he doesn't like the look of. So it's both sides are at it. Both sides. We're all political. We've all got an opinion. However hard I might try to be objective, my prejudices are still going to come out in what I say.
But I do think that you're quite objective of what you're saying with racism, with the slavery. One of the first videos I saw of yours was about the Barbary Coast pirates. So your videos, you discuss the impact of immigration on historical and modern society. What do you see the balance on preserving our, England's historical identity by embracing new cultures?
That's a really tricky question. Again, it's really tricky. Everybody prides themselves on being objective. You pride yourself on being objective and at being able to see through the bullshit and being able to tell the facts as you see them, and so do I. But it doesn't alter the fact that when I look in the mirror and shave, I see a white person. And that automatically tells you what I'm going to be thinking about history. I see a white person in the mirror. I'm a white guy. I look at history. I see white people, and then I see sort of other people. You're going to do the same thing. When you look in the mirror, you see a black guy, and you're going to see more black, probably more a black perspective. Everything that we do like that, it's all it's all connected with our race. It's all connected with our ethnicity. However hard we try and avoid it.
But history is being rewritten. You're looking into the mirror, you're understanding what English history is, what British history is. I like to look to see what British history is. But the new British history is changing every single person to become a black person, or to be mixed race, or to be Indian, or just to be totally wrong. Netflix is the worst at doing it. So how are we going to make the kids understand the true history when they're just getting pumped full of, and it's not even objective bias, it's lies.
Yeah, of course, that's absolutely right. I don't know if you've seen the stills from that new Steve McQueen film, The Blitz. Have you seen anything of that?
No, I haven't. Is it
okay? He's made a film about the Blitz, and of course, the very first stills you get is some black kid in the shelters during the Blitz. Now, you're going to look at how many pictures you look at of people sheltering in the tube station during the Blitz. You're not going to see a black face there. That's not, forget about whether that's my racial perspective. It's a fact. You can go through all those photographs and you won't see a single black face there. That's just the way it was. And yet, when someone makes a film about the Blitz these days, they've got to focus it on black people. It's got to be a black face there in your publicity stuff. And that's partly commercial, because if you want to sell films, particularly to the States, they've got a system now where you've got to have a certain quota of black actors. You've got to have a certain quota of black executives. It just makes sense. That's how things are. If you want to be in the running for the Oscars, you're not even in the running unless you can say that you've ticked so many boxes for black actors, not just supporters. They've got to be main stars. So
we've got a responsibility to make sure that history is historical. You can have a fictitious England with all these multicultural people back in the 1940s, but you can't base it on true things. How are we going to challenge that? Because when you say this is the truth, people automatically will say to you, you're racist. You can't be saying that. When I say the same things, they say that I facilitate white supremacy. So it's the same for both of us. How do we get past this?
Well, because it might happen automatically. Say 50 or 60 years ago, when you watched a film, the black guy in it was likely to be a villain. He's likely to be a drug dealer. He's likely to be a pimp. You see it all the time. You see it in the old Clint Eastwood films, the Dirty Harry film. Black guy comes on, oh, he's a gangster, he's a pimp, and you knew that. That's really, a lot of black people used to get really pissed off at that, and I don't blame them at all. So that was no more realistic than what we're seeing now. It was ridiculous to portray any black character as being a criminal. And now we're going the opposite way. Now, any black character has to be a compassionate, kind person. Any film you have, you've got to have. You don't get black villains in films anymore. You get white villains. White people are often portrayed as being a bit dim-witted, and then there'll be some black guy who's really compassionate and really intelligent, and he'll set everyone straight. So it's the pendulum's just swung to the other way. Maybe it'll swing back. Maybe we'll get a balance in the end.
Yeah, hopefully we can get a balance, but this is all feeding into, the critical race theory that they're pushing in the education system. Over the last 10 years, I've seen it getting worse and worse and more extreme. So we've not got teachers anymore. We really do have far left activists in there. So when they're teaching critical race theory to the students and they're only showing them positive things about black people, and then the only people that are going to go against it is white people, that's going to be a huge problem going forward, especially when it's getting extreme. How do we combat that?
I'm not sure we can combat it without getting denounced and being accused of being wicked. I bet there's a lot of black people see you, what you're saying, and I can imagine, I'm not going to come out with any of the things, but in America, they call people, they say, oh, Oreo and the rest of it. I know, sight unseen, that people have said that to you or about you. I know automatically that a load of white liberals describe me as a racist, and I'm nationalist, I'm white supremacist. You're going to get that. You'll get that if you go against what everyone is saying. That go against the trend. People are going to start insulting you. They're going to start being abusive to you.
Do you think that's going to affect us though in the long run? Do you think that's going to affect the way that it's going to be written? And I know it's written with a bias anyway, but do you think how it's going to shape the way that Britain will be, say, in 2060?
I think people will look back and think of these times as being like the McCarthy era in America, where people didn't dare speak out. Yeah, it'll shape it. But I think people will look back and say, what on earth was going on?
What's your views on what's going on at the moment with the cancellation? It's not even, it used to be cancel culture, and now it's extreme. You can go to prison. If you say the wrong thing on a stream, Sir Keir Starmer, he's more likely to put you in the dock than to just shadow ban your account.
Because governments like power over people. They always have done. It's in the nature. You don't go into government. Why do people become local councillors or MPs? That they do it either for money or because they're busybodies or because they like power. And now they can exercise that power. They've got to a position where they can exert that power and claim to be doing it because they're fighting against racism and they're good people and so on. So why wouldn't they use it? It's why they've become MPs in the first place.
Even the MPs and the local councillors, they're going to be scared of being cancelled by their constituents themselves. We can go a very wrong direction, and I try to see how we can get things back. Has this ever happened in historical times where we're under such?
All over the place. In Russia at one time, it used to be the thing when it was communist, when it was the Soviet Union, they used to claim that any invention, whether it was a helicopter or anything else, had been made by the Russians, and they rewrote history like that. So every invention you mentioned, telephone, television, helicopter, they'd say, oh, yeah, that was really a Russian, but it's been hidden from the world. And you see that with some black historians, some of in America particularly, and they're constantly coming up with stuff. Oh, yeah, this was black guy did this, that's a black invention being stolen by white people. It's the same thing. People will do it. Yeah, it's happened a lot. The problem is that the people that want to get into power are the very ones that shouldn't be anywhere near power.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I talk a lot about the anti-white culture. From Black Lives Matter, being against them, showing the Marxist stuff, and we are being, as Europe, being invaded by Africa, and it's coming all the way up. Again, when I say it, like we were saying earlier, they will call me, the Uncle Tom, which I laugh every time they call me Uncle Tom. I say thank you. I'm actually the hero of the story, So call me that. But again, with these people who are misrepresenting history, I feel that we're going to be in a situation where the invasion is going to be ignored. Not even ignored. It's going to be forgotten about. I've had the pro-black people saying the castles, Scottish castles, black people built them, and I'm like, how did you get to that? And then they go to this one Roman emperor who was black, but he had lots more people. How, when we can't speak, this is what I'm essentially getting to, when we can't speak about what's going on in the West, with Africa coming over here, when we've got such a anti-white agenda going on in the UK, how do you get around it by putting out your videos and still being on the right side of censorship?
I have to be very careful indeed about what I say, because YouTube has suspended me a few times. So I have to choose my words very carefully indeed. And it's not just about race that you can't speak. I have to be careful what I'm saying about health or to do anything to do with COVID. You mustn't really mention. There's a whole list of things, that you'd best keep quiet about, and if you don't want people to shut down what you're saying.
And how much does your channel get attacked?
Yeah. There's some people boast about the fact that they complain to YouTube every single video I put up, and there's a few people who've said this. I've watched them talking about it on other channels. Every time I put a video up, they complain to YouTube and accuse me of being racist, in the hope that just by keep doing that, something will come up. And sometimes it does. Sometimes they get a success. Sometimes YouTube will suspend me.
How long? This is when you? What was the longest time they did? Just a
2
few
weeks
weeks.
was the longest. Yeah.
It gives you time to rest and make more videos.
Yeah, until they close me down altogether.
I don't think they will. I don't know. I don't think they will. They might try to do it. It's been there for so long. It's such a big channel now. I think a lot of people will speak up if they ever try to do that.
Yeah, but Russell Brand was an even bigger channel. They demonetized Russell Brand. There's other people. There's lots of channels have been closed down if it's bad publicity for YouTube. Because they've got the government on their case as well. The government are telling them, Keir Starmer said after those disturbances that the social media had to clean up their act, and that they weren't looking, they weren't behaving properly in letting people speak out. So it's difficult for YouTube and the other companies.
What's your respect on the riots that are going on? Woke culture, in my opinion, has gone so far that they know what the person is, they've arrested the person, and they didn't put out who he was. Right, so that causes people to go around saying we know who it is. If it's somebody with mental health issues or they don't give the name out, we know who it's going to be.
That's right. Yeah.
So, do you think that could have been avoided? All the riots could have been avoided had they just stopped with their woke DEI.
Yeah, it would have made a difference. But they were hedging their bets, saying, "Oh no, he's not an immigrant. He was born in Wales." They were trying their hardest to stop people guessing that he was black. But I mean, I guessed all along he was going to be a black guy with mental health problems. Loads of other people did as well. And by not telling us that straight away, obviously there's going to be rumours about him being a Muslim asylum seeker and so on.
Why is there such an anger in the white working class? Not just the white working class; it's the white working class up in northern towns, bombarded onto them with critical race theory, bombarded onto them with the anti-white agenda. How are these people gonna not calm down? But how are we going to get an equality between them people to say, do you know what, you do live a poor life, and we can't give to the asylum seekers or anything like that. That's what needs to happen. But the anger up there, we need to deflate the anger, or simmer down the anger that they got. How can the government, would you say, could do that?
They could do it by being honest about things, but I mean, that's not in the nature of a government anyway. That anger amongst white working class people, especially ones that aren't very well off, is just going to grow. It's going to get worse. Those are people that have, that they haven't done very well in life. Their families haven't done very well. My own family are very working class. My grandparents, even after she retired, my grandmother used to go out charring, like cleaning for people and so on. And my grandfather was a bus driver. It's all, that they had a terrible life. And when they died, they didn't own anything. And a lot of people are like that in those northern towns. Their families have been poor, they're poor, and they get really irritated when they see they're being told they're privileged.
Again, a lot of policies are based, I personally say, on critical race theory. But I think we're going to see a bigger clash in the next probably decade, where you've got the young black kids who are being told that they're disadvantaged, the young white kids who have lived a disadvantaged life, not just themselves, through 2 or 3 generations. They're seeing their grandmothers who are the same, as you say, have nothing. Is there now a definite motive with the government to keep these type of divisional policies, because they've not denounced it in education?
No, because it's easier to keep control of people when they're squabbling with each other. This is what happened a lot of the time in the British Empire. It's called divide and rule. You get one group and you get them squabbling with another group, and they're easier to control. They're easier to take care of. You know, Britain used to do this a lot. They did it in India with the Muslims and Hindus. They did it in Cyprus with the Turks and the Greeks. They did it in Israel with Jews and Arabs. And it's an old game. If you can keep different groups of people arguing with each other and blaming each other, then they're not going to get together and ask what the government's doing, or perhaps oppose the government.
That's what needs to happen. We need to get together and oppose the government, but we can't in this. Are you a fan of first past the post, or would you be more of changing it slightly?
I don't know. All those systems have got their disadvantages, but it'd help if black working class people and white working class people realise they had more in common with each other than they do with people in Parliament or with wealthy businessmen.
No, 100%. I'm with you on that. You know, let's just cut the bullshit. We're both working class. Let's not listen to the divisions. And a lot of people, especially with Tommy Robinson, there's a lot of black people now who are very much saying, "Oh, we was listening to the bullshit, but now we understand that it wasn't quite how we see it." So I am a massive fan of you know, cutting it down and getting people together, but it's trying to get them together and try to understand. But what do you think? You were talking earlier on there about the colonialism, about the British Empire. What do you think is a positive thing? You as a historian and yourself, you know, as an Englishman, are you proud of it?
Overall, I am proud of it, and I think it was a good thing. I think it was a good thing for the world. But bad things were done, obviously. The same with any empire, in fact, any enterprise you can think of. You know, the British did do bad things. But on balance, I think that the good things they did outweighed the bad things.
Do you think it'd be different? The immigration situation would be different here if we'd kept the empire?
It could be so, yeah. It might have made a difference. It's hard, though, to look back at one thing and then try and build an alternative history from that thing. Because the empire was abolished just after the Second World War. So it's hard to rerun history from that point and ask how it would have been different.
Yeah, true. But a lot of the counter argument people, they like to do that. They do it easy, you know, how the history is being whitewashed, and, you know, how black people should have been, should have been included into history. How can we preserve English history as what it is and as how it has been? Because I think it's important. I think it's important for every black person who comes here, if they're an immigrant, if they've come here on a work visa or whatever, I think it's important for them to understand English and British history before they come and be here.
Yeah, but there's the other argument. Some people think that unless you include all those pictures of black people in history books, that black people will feel excluded and not, you know, they'll feel as though the English and British history isn't relevant to them. So I can see why they want to include a few black faces in those books, because they think it's for the good of people coming here and for black children, to give them a sense of pride and to give them a stake in British history. So I can see why they do it, but the overall result is that those children are learning nonsense, really. I'm not sure how you're going to be able to alter that until the government decides that enough's enough.
And who's going to decide that? How are they going to decide that? How are people, are we going to need from my point of view, it's not going to be an extreme government, but are we going to need a government and somebody to be very strong and say, listen, this is what needs to happen. I'm prepared for you to call me whatever you want, but listen to my policies. And, you know, we're going to cut out all of this stuff, and we're going to re-educate slightly especially the youth. Is that what needed, or can we do it slowly?
It'd be good if that could happen, but I can't see either Labour or the Conservatives doing anything like that. I thought that the Labour government might be slightly less awful than the Conservatives, but so far, I mean, Keir Starmer seems to me to be worse than Rishi Sunak.
Izzy's just. I was talking to someone the other day, said I prefer Jeremy Corbyn. You know, I wasn't very anti-Corbyn, but I'm like, you know, if we had to have anything, let us have Jeremy Corbyn, and it's dangerous as well, because these people they have the power to change everything in our lives, you know, and it's going to take successive governments a long time to to get them back, like what we've got with the removal of statues, renaming street names. These are all cultural identities, cultural things that is part of Britain. I'm scared that if we get rid of everything and the woke mob coming into force like what they're going to be doing, that there's going to be nothing left of a truth, and it's all going to be based on a lie.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I think whatever happens, people will have to start doing something soon. But what it is that's got to be done, I don't know. I mean, I'm old. I'm going to die soon anyway. It's no skin off my nose. It's it probably won't affect me. But I think that something needs to be done fairly quickly.
Your channel and channels like yours who do constantly go out and you do put yourself above the parapet. You are there to have everyone to criticize you, but also you get a lot of support as well. You get a lot of people who, like myself, I look at it and then I can go off and I can read into that bit of history that I was never told or I didn't know about. So I think what you're doing is important. What do you think of the normal education that we're getting through the system? How do you think that the people coming out now of university, 21 to 25, and their lack of knowledge?
Well, I can only say that I didn't send my own daughter to school for a single day. So
didn't you?
No, I wouldn't have dreamt of it.
That's interesting.
Didn't go to school at all.
So you homeschooled your daughter all the way through?
Yeah, of course. I wasn't going to trust her at some school. You must be mad.
Wow. Well, that's eye opening. That is,
So that's what I think. That's what I think about modern schools. I wouldn't trust anybody. I wouldn't let them look after my cat. Never mind my child.
Was it hard? Was it hard work? Or I guess for you,
but I enjoyed it. Yeah,
you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
that's very interesting. Well, I think more people should be homeschooling.
I agree.
Yeah, and I'm very much with my daughter. She's only 5 now, so she's just going to normal to junior school, infant school, whatever, reception. And I'm very much on what they're getting taught there anyway, because I'm the same as you. But I don't think I could homeschool. But that's very interesting. So you must have been one of the first people. Was there many people homeschooling, or were you called the strange person whose child doesn't go to school?
Yeah, home educators are strange people. I've known a load of home educators, and they're all a bit weird because normal people send their kids to school, so you're weird automatically if you decide not to do that.
Yeah, but at least they get a balanced education. Is that a problem within education? The lack of critical thinking.
Yeah, I think it's a problem. Kids aren't taught to think for themselves. They're told a lot of nonsense, and if they don't accept it, the teachers get irritated with them.
And that's what comes on with the culture of, I'm going to speak to you, I'm going to tell you what I'm saying, and then I'm going to block you, or I'm going to hide my ears and not listen to a reply. The conversation around both politics and history, how do you think that's going to evolve over the next decade? Because we're going to potentially have Keir Starmer in office for the next decade.
I think there's going to be more and more people give up on the political process and take to the streets, take to direct action. And I can see, you see that happening not just with discontented white working class people. You see it happening with things to do with Palestine and so on. There's more and more people on the streets now than there used to be 10 years ago. And there's more and more people feeling that the way to do things is to go out on the streets and shout rather than wait until the next election. So I suspect we'll see more of that.
What do you think about the two-tier policing with the Palestine lobby versus the nationalists? Because I've been very involved with the St George's Day as well, the 3 demonstrations, rallies, whatever. So I've been very involved with doing them, and I've seen myself that the policing was totally different. But how do you think it's been policed?
It's at all costs not to upset Muslims. I'm a Zionist. I lived in Israel for years, and I'm watching some of these protests. There was one in Leeds the other day, and they were chanting things like Yahudi Shemata Jews are whores and things like that, in Arabic. And all those people in the crowd, they're all chanting stuff about Jews, this and all the rest of it. And the police didn't care at all. There's been recent demonstrations that people, ones you mentioned, people have chanted who the something or other is Allah. And there's been huge problems about that. There's been arrests, there's been outrage in the newspapers. So it's okay to criticize some people. It's not okay to criticize Islam.
Yeah. And it's okay for them to come down on the majority white working class, because that's who's coming out, against it. And Trafalgar Square on the 27th was beautiful. There's all sorts of people there. It was a really good moment, and because we was all celebrating the nation, so it was important. But Sir Robert Peel, he introduced the police service, the Metropolitan Police Service. What do you think he would be saying now? Because
Robert Peel said that a policeman was just a citizen in uniform. He's just another citizen. He hasn't got any special rights or any special powers at all, or he shouldn't have. The police should just be us. They're citizens that are looking after other citizens. But it's not like that these days. Police are a power. They're in control.
They are. The overreach is incredible, and again, I've seen that. And they said they've got special people to do flags, but they don't have it to do anti-Semitic chants. And I was saying to the police officer, I was like, there's anti-Semitic chants happening. And he's like, oh, I can't hear it. And then I turn around and there's a little kid, right? And he was singing To the River, to the Sea, right? And I was like, listen. And he's like, oh, no, I don't know what that means. And I was like, come on, It's absolutely incredible. But again, the police are not doing what they're supposed to, and I guess they're all under the cosh by the big guy. If you speak out, you're going to be terrible.
Yeah, they'll lose their jobs.
They've been protesting on pro-Gaza. Now, myself, I think it's absolutely disgusting that they've disrespected the constituency in so much to say, we're not going to care about you, we're going to care about something thousands of miles away. Do you think that Rishi Sunak was right when he came out and said there is Islamization in the government? And I was against that speech, but now I can actually see from these things that actually there is. Do you think that's going to be a major player in how the governments are going to be set?
Yeah, I think it probably is, because Jeremy Corbyn's got together a group of Muslim MPs now, forming their own faction in Parliament, and it's a faction which is concerned only with things, as you say, going on thousands of miles away. Not to do with this country. I don't think that's a good sign.
And do you see, like you said earlier on as well, just to find, I know you're a busy man, so finally, that you said that you wrote books about the suffragettes.
Yeah.
Do you think this is the same type? There's a similarities with when the white working class will be coming out into the streets for a change to what the suffragettes were doing, because they were, they had their issues. They wanted to have their type of rights and that. And the white working class want to be, they want to be a majority in the UK, which they seem to be hell-bent on not doing it. And B, they want to be an equal, or even, I don't believe in equality with the white working class. I think they should be above everything else. You just are British first all the time. So if they come out on the street, do you think it will be similar to how they are, like what the suffragettes are doing?
I think it's heading in that direction, yeah. I think it's heading in the direction of extra parliamentary action, that some white working class people are going to get so discontented and so angry that they're going to resort to violence. They're going to come out onto the streets to get what they want.
If that's the only, if that's the only way that they are able to do it, because there was a lot of media around the riots, people actually going out into these areas and speaking to the people. And I thought, as a bad situation, they got their voices out,
Yeah.
It's the same as what the Palestinian lobby do. It's the same as what everyone else does.
It's a way to get noticed, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. And hopefully it doesn't get to that. But I'm of your viewpoint that if the government don't do anything and they keep giving to other people, then that's what's going to happen. Thank you for your time, and keep doing what you're doing. Fantastic. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the conversation. It was wonderful.
All right, you take care now, yeah?
Right, see you later. Have a good one.
Bye.
Cheers.